That one is actually like one of the very first prototypes. This one is one of my daughter's favorites one because it's the only one wearing pants.
That's interesting.
Yeah, she notices that. Still to this day, like her favorite ones are like the darker ones. Like not that I like tell her that those are the darker ones. She just gravitates to them because we've been so conditioned for so long. Like lighter skin has always been so preferred.
We're just so conditioned by what we have seen or what
Yes.
we're taught.
Yes.
For whatever reason, that dark is evil bad or light is good, you know?
Right.
And now what you're telling me is that your girls are living in a different world.
I know.
Yay!
Yeah.
Things are changing for the
Yeah.
better.
Yeah, I really do hope so. Like that's my whole goal. I'm from Malaysia, so I was born in Malaysia, but like background is Chinese, and then I grew up in Australia. I was 8 months old. So,
okay. And then you moved to Australia when you were
8 months old. Yeah, so I was a baby. So pretty much
you're
like Australian. In high school, when I was deciding what I wanted to do in university, internet was just coming in. I was actually designing websites like on the side, like at home.
Oh my gosh!
In high school, like while my friends were going out, I wanted to just design websites. I wanted to be a web designer in university, but my parents were like, that doesn't sound like stable. Being like 18, I didn't know what that meant for me, like going out, like finding clients. Like I just didn't have that. I didn't know what that like journey looked like. Like I didn't know how to navigate that on my own. And like being a freelancer, like that also seems scary.
Yeah. And if it wasn't modeled for you, if that wasn't what your parents were doing, then of course it would be like, what is that?
I thought, well, I've always been good at math. Like, let me just do finance.
And that's like secure and that, you know, is stable.
What everyone tells you to do. Like, okay, I didn't be a lawyer or a doctor, but finance seemed like the next best thing. And I just thought like, okay, well, I'll try and be really good at that. I worked in Australia for 2 years after university and then I just quit. Like I just didn't want to do it anymore. And then,
See ya.
Yeah. So I wanted to just like work in finance actually. So my dream was to work in New York. It's actually right after the financial crisis. And it's like the worst time to want to do this, but I was just like, I can't do it anymore. I want to go overseas. Like it was so hard to get a job, let alone have a company sponsor me. So I just thought, oh, I'll come to Canada first and then I'll try and find a job in New York and then end up staying here. Still in insurance, still hating it, realized that I can't do insurance anymore. Like it's like it was soul sucking for me. And I just felt like I was like pushing papers, like it was no meaning. And so I just like couldn't get up in the morning. And so and so I was always carrying a camera everywhere. And so my husband was like, why don't you do photography? Even in high school, I was the girl with like always with the camera. Like I always was taking photos, like even when I was bringing it to school, and I was able to capture like these moments that they could relive. And then I realized like how meaningful that was. I never considered like doing weddings. I always thought I'm not a good salesperson or I'm not good at like public speaking or being able to like market something. But when it came to photography, it was so natural for me. Like I could so easily connect with clients. I could so easily sell myself because I knew my worth in that. And I was confident and I felt like I wasn't being like salesy because I believed in it.
You now are actually a wedding photographer. Right. You specialize in that. So like, how did you overcome that like anxiety that's around like I have to deliver on this one day and I've got this one chance, so to speak?
Right. I think I used that to my advantage, like just like to really like drive me, but also have that like knowing that this is so significant for people and I wanted to just create that joy in people. I just knew that afterwards I would be creating something so magical for people and that meaning not just for them, but for their families too. When I finally thought, okay, I'm going to move into doing photography, it was just like so natural. And I felt like I was coming back to that creative soul that I kind of pushed down for a long time.
I was just wanting to say, welcome to the creative journey. Like that is so the creative's journey is feeling like they try to fit into what it is that they're told that they should be, what society tells you you should be. And then you're like, you know what? I tried it. This isn't working. And then when you finally find, as they call it, the blue ocean, you're like, yes! Oh my gosh. And then you can sell and then you can talk to people about what, you know, your vision is for them. They get excited. They give you energy. You give them energy back. And then you have this product that you're like, I'm so proud of this.
Exactly. Yes.
And I'm so happy that I was able to create this together, especially in like an art like that, where it's like you can't do your art without the people that
It's true. Yes. Even at the tail end of it, becoming a mom, like it was so tough. Like I had my first daughter in 2019, and then like just not like having like a maternity leave, like being a small business owner.
Yeah.
And so having to still manage being a full-time mom for the first time, as well as having like a successful business was just like insane because I was, had her and then I would like just go back into weddings and then had no time to like rest. Like I also had that like very small business mindset where I was like I had to do everything by myself.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to like delegate to other people or like trust anyone. So I was doing everything, like to bookkeeping, to admin, to everything. There was like so much struggle in that. So I was kind of thinking I also wanted to move out of it anyway because I knew that with my daughter was going to go to school, I was going to be working on the weekends, so I would never see her. So it was like, what's the point of this like kind of lifestyle? And then I needed to make a change, like if I really wanted to be with her. Of course, the pandemic hit, and then I was kind of like struck with, well, who am I? Like, what do I do?
Who do I want to be professionally and also for my daughter, for myself? I mean, I guess that is ultimately what postpartum is that whole like reorganization, reassessing of who am I now moving forward, knowing that I'm carrying this life with me for the rest of my life.
It's true. There's this just like shift in like your identity that you just don't know who you are. I think for some people, they could go back into like their workplace and then feel like themselves again.
Yeah.
But for me, I felt like my life had like forever changed and there was no going back to normal.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, totally. And especially because like you were saying, people who go back to work, a lot of them have a structured work space where it's like, here's the office, here's the company, here's your role. Whereas like you are creating that on a day-to-day basis with your own business. And it's a creative business.
I was so successful that people were booking us like 2 to 3 years in advance. And so I felt like pretty set like financially, but then who would have thought like a pandemic would have hit and then despite all the contracts that we have in place, like we would have that compassion for people to like provide refunds, provide cancellations, even though that's not really in our contract. What that meant for me financially, like not knowing what our future was, especially having a 1-year-old.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So many unexpected
Yeah. And then
things.
I thought, well, if I can't do weddings, then what do I do? Like, who am I? Because I just saw so much of who I was as a wedding photographer. And that really did become my life. And so, I just felt so empty, even though I had my daughter at home. I just was struggling with this whole like emptiness and I didn't know what to do. Her not being able to play with anyone for so long, which is the two of us, because my husband did have to go to work because he's on like the front lines, being stuck at home. And I'm thinking, I don't want her to like feel lonely. And so that's when I started to look for dolls. And when I started to look for dolls, I couldn't really connect with them just because I felt like they had features that were supposed to be Asian, but were just called Asian.
Yes.
And it was just like this monolithic doll that somehow this one, I would say called token Asian doll, was supposed to represent like this wide, diverse Asian diaspora. And then, of course, like watching the news, like seeing the rise in anti-Asian hate and all of that, like I myself felt scared, like bringing her out in the world, like what that meant for like how I look. And then reflecting on how, my experiences growing up, playing with blonde dolls or like looking at my classmates thinking, they're so pretty. I want to look like them. I'm Chinese Malaysian and my husband's Korean. So I thought like, I want my daughter to be able to connect to this like mixed heritage as well for our family. And I'm sure so many other children out there will want to be able to connect with theirs and just feel proud of like where they come from. Because I know that for myself, I've struggled with that growing up, like feeling proud of our identity, like where we come from. Like, I just feel like there was a lot of wasted time in like feeling ashamed of it. And then now only realizing as an adult, like feeling more prideful. Whereas I wish I had that like sense of pride earlier on.
which is what our children now, you know, this next generation that's coming up that we're raising is now getting to experience.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, definitely.
Because of the efforts of what we're doing, because of what it is that we had to experience and go through as children of their age. So these are the Joeydolls. I just want to recount that, like, when I first saw them on the sofa, I kind of had a freak out moment because they're just so beautiful.
I put her in a Chinese outfit for her birthday. I thought, like, we're celebrating this with her on her birthday, but why can't we celebrate these like through dolls as well? And that's when I had the idea of like doing them through dolls.
Oh my gosh, they're celebrating their birthdays. That's how they're dressed
in a way, but like it's like, you know, when we have like festivals.
What do we have here?
Yeah, so I started off with 6 dolls. My journey in doing dolls, like people would say, why don't you just do 1 doll or maybe 2 dolls? But I really was set on doing at least 6.
Yeah.
Like looking back, it's so crazy because there's just so much involved with development of 1 doll. I have Japanese doll, Korean doll, Filipina, and then I have Chinese, Indian, and Vietnamese. I really wanted when they sat together, you could just see the diversity.
Yeah.
And initially, of course, I wanted to have like options for different skin tones within like the different ethnicities.
Yeah.
But of course, with production limitations at this point, especially with funding and all of that, because I am like personally funding all of this myself, I had to settle on just doing these skin tones for now, but I hope that we can do like different options in the future. What I really wanted was it to really represent more of the Asian diaspora. I know it's not fully representative and there's just so much to represent, but I hope that it's like one step into doing so. Yeah, especially with the Southeast, which has been underrepresented for so long. I just wanted, like, when people see this, they can see like visually how diverse that we are.
These are 6 very big steps in that direction. More to come, more steps to come. They each have their own name. So how did you also come to the names?
I wanted it to be sort of a collaborative process with the community because I don't want to pretend that I'm an expert in all of these different cultures. I wanted people, when they see the dolls or have the dolls, that they feel prideful to have them for what they mean. You know, when you look at them, they might look cute and all, but I think when it comes to the meaning of these dolls, like that is really my goal. Like these are so significant in what they represent. So I wanted even the names to have like good meaning. I put it out there like, well, what do you suggest? And so people would provide their suggestions. And then I wanted people to also have like feel included so that they could vote on the name as well. But then of course I had to like vet each name, like know what each name meant. Pretty much every name out there that has been chosen was based on like the meaning.
Okay, because I have something to tell you is that my mother's name is Malaya.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Malaya actually is the way that they pronounce it in the Philippines. And I was like, oh, she named the doll after my mom. That's why I was wondering where you came up with the names. And I just love that the community actually came together.
I just thought that I couldn't pass up a name like that with this meaning free, and for what it means free, like how I interpret that as being like free to be yourself and free to like own your identity and have that pride of who you are.